Okay, I'm back, folks. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. We've had some technological issues today, but we're here. I think we're good to go. March 2025. Jerry, you hear me all right on your end?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. March 2025 edition of the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. Um, Let's see. This webinar series is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center down there at WKU in partnership with NIDIS in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. Production delivery of this webinar reflects the contributions of many partners across the state committed to serving the needs of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Of course, we got Jerry and his folks with the Kentucky Climate Center and the Kentucky Mesonet. We got Chip Zimmer and Bill Caldwell with the Division of Water. Our next regularly scheduled webinar is set for the first Thursday of April, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the Kentucky Climate Center YouTube channel. I got my class joining in today, so I hope they have it all good to go over in the classroom. Anyways, just starting out, February, extremely wet month, or I should say the first half of February was extremely wet. This is just one picture of many across the state from the Lewis County, Kentucky Mesnet stations showing the extent of flooding in that region. There in the middle of February, and we'll talk more about it here in a second. The state saw anywhere from 2.5 to 6+ inches of rainfall that fell on already saturated grounds across the state and just led to destructive flooding for portions of the Commonwealth. So, outline, same as always, we'll go over recent conditions, focusing on February, the last 3 months, looking at the impacts of all this flooding, impacts to agriculture. As we go into the spring season, look at the outlooks moving forward. I do have some good news today. I'll tell you all, I am totally done with winter. One of the worst feelings was looking outside last night and seeing that snow falling again. Again, I'm just done with winter. I can't wait for 70, 80-degree temperatures. Quick summary, and then we'll go into a question and discussion session. Here on this page, I just want to show you a quick look. This is our weather alert app in the Ag Weather Center. I know Chip and Jerry, myself have mentioned downloading this app numerous times throughout these monthly webinars, but this is just one look of the radar as all that flooding was taking place across the Bluegrass State. All those light green polygons, the dark maroon colored polygons, those are all some sort of aerial flood warnings, flash flood warnings, you name it. And all the lightning strikes across the area even had some winter weather occurring over northern Indiana, northern Ohio, just a lot going on over this 2-day period during the middle of February. Looking at the past 7 days, thankfully, the second half of February was dry compared to the first half. This past week, we only averaged about 4/10 of an inch precipitation, and this is the liquid equivalent. So, if we had snowfall, we melt all that down to the liquid equivalent. This is the map you're going to get. Across the eastern half of the state, most everyone was under 1/10 of an inch. You get over to Western Kentucky, Pennyroyal region, Purchase region, somewhere between a half inch and an inch. Now, you'll notice this is past 7 days. We had a state average of 4,400 hundredths. Let's go back the past 14 days. That state average only goes up by 300. So over the past 2 weeks, we've averaged just under a half inch across the Bluegrass State. Again, this was welcome news after all that flooding and extreme rainfall we saw over the first half of the month. So saying that, let's extend this back 30 days and you start seeing those higher totals come into this map. So there's places across, again, the Southern Purchase, Southern Pennyroyal, those were some of the hardest hit areas in terms of rainfall totals. You got 9+ inches in those regions. You go over to Eastern Kentucky, you're still seeing some of those pink shades show up, 9, 10+ inches in some regions. You move north across the Bluegrass State, and those totals really start to diminish. finish. So we're going from 8, 9 inches across the southern portions of Kentucky to 4 or 5 inches to the in the northern bluegrass. But nonetheless, very wet month. The state average 7.95 inches over the past 30 days, which is over 3.5 inches above normal. And we'll look at some of the rankings here in a bit. Going back 60 days, we see that state average increase to 11 inches. Again, higher totals really happened in the last 30 days, showing those higher numbers across the southern half of the bluegrass state. And going back 90 days, so the entirety of winter, 16.19 inch average, which is closing in on 4.5 inches above normal. So this winter, it's been pretty wet, and that's been the case for quite a few winters over the past decade. Now, looking at departure from normal precipitation, a little hard to see. Upper top left image, most of Kentucky from the state's midsection down to the south, running 4 to 5+ inches above normal over the past 30 days. We still see those positive departures in the 60 and 90-day periods. Again, the higher positive deviations across the southern half of Kentucky. So everywhere from just about 64 and points, I-64 and points south, running 4 to 6+ inches above normal over that time span. Now, it was interesting. I collected data from the Ag Weather Center and the Midwestern uh, Regional Climate Center. Their data packages are actually down right now. So I went by our data, and that includes Mesnet data, that includes data from airports, the automated surface observing systems across the state. Put all those together, Kentucky averaged 7.60 inches of liquid equivalent precipitation during the month of February. That's over 3.5 inches above normal. This would rank as the seventh wettest February of all time in Kentucky history. Now, this is preliminary data. We'll wait for NOAA, um, NCEI to come out with official data probably within the next 2 or 3 days. But again, based on our average of 7.60 inches, that would rank as the seventh wettest February of all time in Kentucky history. And this data goes all the way back to 1895. So that's pretty significant stuff right there. This would be our fourth consecutive month of above normal rainfall. So again, our winter season has been very wet in Kentucky, but it's been welcomed in some ways outside of all the flooding. We were seeing drought conditions again last fall. That was our third straight fall season with drought conditions in place. So we needed rainfall, but looking at this past month, we didn't need as much as what we did see. For winter season, 24-25 state average 16.65 inches, according to our data in the Ag Weather Center, which is just over 4.5 inches above normal over that time span, resulting in the 14th wettest winter season on record for Kentucky. Now, I know Chip's mentioned this in the past. Dr. Stu Foster used to put together the scatter plots, time series scatter plots back in the day. And it's a good way to compare, in this case, our current winter season to previous winter seasons in the past. So this chart is split into 4 quadrants based on the average temperature we've seen over the past 30 years during the winter season and the average precipitation we've seen over that 30-year period. Precipitation average is that blue line, and temperature average is that red line. Now, every winter season is going to be a little different. Some winter seasons will see above normal temperatures, some will see below normal precipitation the same way. So looking at this current year, we averaged around 36 degrees for the winter season, which is slightly below normal. It is actually our first winter season we've seen below normal temperatures since the winter season of 2020, 2021. Precipitation was again above normal, that's 16.65 inches. And looking back, I highlighted the past 10 winter seasons in red. So any winter seasons highlighted in red you see in that upper right-hand quadrant would be winter seasons since 1991, with temperatures running above normal and precipitation running above normal. So you count there, and one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 of the past 10 years have seen winter seasons have seen above normal precipitation and temperatures. So 24, 25, a little different, but we did see above normal precipitation, just like a lot of the years over the past decade. In fact, 9 of the past 10 years over the past decade have seen above normal precipitation during the winter season. So this is a trend we've been watching with our um, changing climate in Kentucky. It's been getting warmer across the entirety of the year. It's been getting wetter across the entirety of the year. But looking at these seasons, particular seasons, Kentucky winters have been trending warmer and wetter also. So moving forward, I wanted to take kind of a expanded look across the entire Midwest region as we're getting closer to growing season 2025. Looking at our winter season percent of normal precipitation, liquid equivalent is on the left, and then we got snowfall on the right. No matter which image you look at, we saw above normal precipitation and snowfall for the winter season. That wasn't the case across the entire Midwest. You look over into Missouri, specifically looking at liquid equivalent precipitation. They saw anywhere 50 to 75% of normal. That carries into the big grain producing areas of Iowa, Nebraska, so on and so forth, even over into Illinois, the northern half of Illinois. Snowfall, they're in somewhat of a snow drought this year across the northern Great Plains region, the northern Midwest. So this will be something to monitor as we move forward. I'll show you all a look at the seasonal drought outlook towards the end of the webinar. Now, focusing on the flooding of February 2025, this is from the Kentucky Mesnet, a map from the Kentucky Mesnet showing 48-hour precipitation as of February 16th at 8:30 in the morning. Now, most of this precipitation fell over the course of February 14th, 15th, and the 16th. Highest totals were again down that southern Purchase, Pennyroyal region, 6+ inches. You go farther east into eastern Kentucky, a lot of those counties saw devastating impacts from the river flooding and whatnot, flash flooding. Totals were lower, 3, 4 inches, but again, this time of year, you don't have that evapotranspiration. Vegetation isn't necessarily soaking up this rainfall, and a lot of this rainfall is turning into runoff. This followed what was a wet January. Going into the start of February, grounds were pretty well saturated. Wow, I'm getting tongue twisted today in a number of areas. And then you add this 3 to 4 inches on top of it. Basically, our average for the month is somewhere between 3.5 and 4 inches. So a month's worth of rainfall in a 48-hour period, you're going to have problems. And that's exactly what we saw this past month. I'm going to try to see if this will work real quick. So hope it's not too loud on your end, but Pikeville in 2025 was one of the hardest hit areas across Kentucky. So So I'm not going to watch the full 3 minutes. This was put together by Ben Childers. The URL link up there I can share after this webinar also, but he made several videos by drone looking at some of the most devastated areas across Kentucky. It's also accessible on the National Weather Service flooding pages on this event. So see if I can move forward. So Tiffany with the Kentucky Climate Center sent me these pictures about an hour or two ago, and I thought it was real interesting. This was down in or over in Breathitt County. This particular picture was from February 15th, 2025. So this was before all the rain really started for Breathitt County. Everything's looking good. You move this forward to February 16th, and it's all underwater. So again, to give you guys perspective, you see that fence right there, get an idea, 5, 6 feet off the ground, and it's gone in a matter of 24 hours looking at February 16th. I shouldn't say gone, it's just submerged in water. And then we go on to February later in the day. Um, it is receding a little bit. You're starting to see the top of that fence, but it was just an exceptional amount of water. I see Keenan on here on this webinar. He is our A&R agent over in Franklin County. And I'm sorry, Keenan, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but just shows how much these extension agents will go to get to work and whatnot. His driveway was flooded. I believe Keenan, he can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he said it was under 12 feet of water, but he was taking a boat across his driveway to get to where he needed to be. So dedication from Keenan. Is something you want to say, Keenan?
No, you're exactly correct. It was only 12 feet this flood. Some floods it's been close to 30 feet. So fortunately, it's all backwater, so it's still and safe to canoe through. So, but yeah, dedication. You got it, man.
Dedication for sure. For sure. Thank you, Keenan. Um, Moving on from flooding to temperatures for the Bluegrass State during the month of February. Average temperature was 39 degrees, which was slightly above normal. I took a map up there in the upper left-hand corner showing departure from mean temperature for the entire month from the Midwestern Regional Climate Center. Notice Eastern Kentucky running slightly above normal, maybe slightly below normal temperatures up there near Henderson, Davies County, you name it. But again, overall, above normal temperatures won out, but we did have ups and downs, and I would say they were extreme ups and downs throughout the month. Looking at the very cold temperatures after we got through that flooding, unfortunately, we saw extreme cold right behind that event. We had temperatures at times drop into the single digits. This picture in the bottom right-hand corner was the top 10 um, minimum air temperatures on the morning of February 21st. Again, most of the state in the single digits, but places like Pulaski County, Meade County, Ballard County, Casey County all went below zero. Pulaski got to almost 5 degrees below zero. And getting this late in the year, or this late in the winter season, I should say, seeing temperatures this cold, you don't see very often. On the other end of the spectrum, we got into the end of February, and thankfully, we saw above normal temperatures make their return, and we had spring season like temperatures in place. Highs getting into the upper 60s. We see some folks across central Kentucky hitting the mid 70s, Muhlenberg at 74. So it was very nice. But again, here the past few days, we're still seeing those up and down fluctuations. The end of meteorological winter, the three coldest months of the year, 3 months of the year was December, January, and February just came to an end, and we're getting into meteorological spring. Luckily, we got good news on the horizon, but again, temperature slightly below normal for the winter season. It was the first time since the winter season of 2020, 2021. Moving on to soil moisture and stream flows. I took some of these from the Kentucky Mesnet. This is looking at soil moisture at various levels in Monroe County, Kentucky. You see the extreme rainfall event. We have seen those soil moisture levels recede over the past 2 weeks as it has gotten drier. Again, it was much needed. Don't mind it one bit at all. Looking at soil moisture percentile and that 10 centimeter top 4 inches of the soil profile running above normal across Western Kentucky and Central Kentucky, um, say near normal across the eastern half of the state. Stream flows actually running below normal for the USGS, according to the USGS across the state. Again, that water has since receded from the flooding event and yeah, making its way out. I will say, moving back to that flooding, a number of area streams and rivers did reach moderate to major flood stages. The real issues, Green River region, but also going over to Eastern Kentucky at that time. Um, I'll have to look back at records, but got close in many situations. Looking at the latest edition of the U.S. Drought Monitor, with a wet February in place, we're looking fine across the Bluegrass State. I showed you earlier some of those below normal precipitation, snowfall departures across the Midwestern region, especially as you get up into the Great Plains, northern Midwest. A lot of that area is experiencing moderate drought conditions at this time, maybe just abnormally dry. Again, this will be something to watch as we go into the 2025 growing season. It's nice to see no drought conditions in place across Kentucky. We did see those three straight falls of drought conditions. This is just the U.S. Drought Monitor class change, and this is over the past 6 months. So going back to September 17th, 2024. Some areas have seen a class 3 improvement across Kentucky and going up into southern Ohio. Southern Ohio is much worse off than us last fall season. But again, you see those places over in Iowa, Minnesota going in the opposite direction. Ag impacts this winter. Mud is again a problem. I don't have any current pictures right now. If you're extension agent, you got some good images. I would extremely appreciate it if you sent some of those my way. This is just one example of what cattle producers have been dealing with this past decade with these warmer winters in place. Even though we saw below normal temperatures on average during this winter season, February, with all this flooding, you're going to get more pictures like this. This is from February 2019. You can imagine yourself walking through this area with mud boots on. That mud's going to be have basically a suction cup on those boots. Try and take your boot off every single time you take a step, and you yourself is expending a lot of energy walking through all this mud. Now you just think of yourself as one of these animals in these pastures that constantly has to deal with these muddy conditions, expending a lot more energy, need more feed. Double-edged sword in some ways, but yeah, the past 5 winters, or I'm sorry, 5 of the past 10 winters over this past decade, rank in the top 10 warmest winters ever recorded in Kentucky history, and this trend continues. Um, I was reading the crop report earlier from the month of February as a whole. Some of the winter wheat is going to be damaged through this flooding situation. Extent of the damage, not quite known yet. Winter wheat condition, 30% fair, 53% good, 8% excellent. What we'd like to see. Current hay supply, 3% very short, 22% short, 71% adequate, and 4% surplus. Again, we're going to be getting some warmer temperatures. Hopefully, we can get these pastures going in the right direction again, seeing some of that spring growth, maybe a little earlier in the year after what has been a pretty hard winter for many folks across the area and animals across the area. I talk about the winter season as a whole. Going back to January, extremely cold, one of the colder Januaries we've ever seen. And we get into February and we see these ups and downs combined with precipitation, especially that flooding event. We had all that rainfall and then temperatures just plummeted. So for our Kentucky livestock, definitely not what we want to see. Currently, livestock condition rated 24% fair, 62% good, 7% excellent. It's those rapidly changing temps and the flooding that's really causing issue. I did get some good news while I was at the Kentucky Extension Conference this year. With these colder temperatures we've seen over the winter season, fruit trees are right on schedule this year. So, with these warmer winters we've seen this past decade, We've had fruit trees go into bloom much earlier in the year. Same thing with winter wheat, alfalfa at times. And it's caused real damage when we see a spring freeze, frost, you name it. But this year, it looks like in terms of development, we're looking fine. So looking forward, this is the liquid equivalent precipitation we're anticipating over the next 7 days. Below normal precipitation, a tenth to a quarter inch plus across most of Kentucky. I think we'll all still take this. The second half of February, running dry, but we needed a break. Moving into the 6 to 10 day temperature outlooks, weather temperatures will run and precipitation will run above normal, below normal, near normal. And right now, forecasters with the Climate Prediction Center are highly confident we're going to see above normal temperatures as we get into the midsection of March. So that second week of March, the darker shades of red. Sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted bad this webinar, but above normal temperatures are very likely for the middle of March, along with above normal precipitation. We move to the 8 to 14 day outlooks, March 13th through the 19th, those above normal temperatures hanging on. And we actually have a hot spot for above normal precipitation over the eastern half of the bluegrass state, something we don't particularly want to see at this time. Weeks 3 and 4, I thought this was interesting. Temperature outlook. This is March 15th through the 28th, keeping with that trend of above normal temperatures, and they have high confidence we're going to see above normal temperatures over this time span and above normal precipitation continuing with that trend. So after this cold spell we just saw, we're going to be warming up next week, seeing some temperatures in the high temperatures in the 70s, and all the outlooks project that this trend is going to continue for the entirety of March. The only difference, above normal rainfall return to the region. So we'll see. Growing season is going to be getting started here before we know it. We'll see how wet it actually is as we go into early April, but it looks like those fruit trees, winter wheat, alfalfa, these warmer temperatures should speed along development as we go through the rest of March. Seasonal temperature outlook. I usually don't put a lot into these seasonal temperature outlooks because by the end of May, this is for the 3 month period, March, April, May. If temperatures were 0.1 degree above normal in the state of Kentucky, this map would verify. We are going to see ups and downs over this 3 month period. We're going to see cooler periods. We're going to see warmer periods. We'll see wetter periods. We're going to see drier periods. But overall, the Climate Prediction Center is predicting at the end of that 3 month period, we're going to be seeing above normal temperatures and above normal precipitation for those 3 months. So going a lot farther down the road, we are currently, just starting March. This is looking at the ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation forecast. This is what we use during the winter months, get an idea of whether we'll see above normal, below normal precipitation and temperatures. Right now, if we look, 10 months down the road, long ways away, ENSO is pretty well a toss-up. We are currently experiencing La Nina conditions right now. That's going to slowly fade away as we get into the spring and summer months. And as we go into next fall and then to the next winter season, again, it's a toss-up as to what we're going to see next. Monthly stream flow outlook for March 2025. Seeing some below normal stream flows right now, but again, by the time we get to the end of the month, they're expecting above normal stream flows across the entirety of Kentucky. Looking at the U.S. seasonal drought outlook for the next 3 months. And actually, I guess this hasn't changed. So I guess I had changed this earlier, but didn't go through. March 2025 wildland fire potential outlook. No worries in Kentucky. Worries will be in Texas, western Oklahoma, and across the southeast. Quick summary, exceptional flooding across portions of Kentucky in February 2025 was a top 10 was February ever recorded, ending at preliminarily speaking, at number 7. Slightly above normal temperatures in February following a frigid January. It was the first winter season with below normal temperatures for about, what is that, 4 or 5 years. And outlook suggests a wet and warm month of March moving forward. Ag is in decent shape right now, but we'll see what a wet March um, will do to our planting season as we head into April. So, our next scheduled webinar, April 3rd, first Thursday at the month, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you have any questions, you have feedback, feel free to contact me, Jerry, Bill Caldwell, or Chip at those emails listed above. So, appreciate your all's attention. If you have any questions, feel free to shout them out.
Man, I think you answered all my questions.
Good to
I,
hear. Good to
I
hear.
spoke with Jerry beforehand. I said, well, I want to ask about this, this, and this, and I think you covered it.
Awesome.
I, you know as well as I do, Matt, that our farmers will be anxious to get into the field. And when you were talking about soil moisture, it looked all pretty good. And then you had to rain on my parade and say we're going to have above normal precipitation in that period. Any advice you can give to those anxious farmers out there as they anticipate planting season in April?
So that's a good question. My advice would be wait. I mean, I know we're getting anxious, get in the fields, get everything going, but as you talk to some of the specialists across the College of Agriculture, if we get in the fields too early, we can do more harm than good. So we talk about soil compaction. We talk about pests related to very wet conditions in the spring months. We're going to have some dry windows. I know the outlooks don't look great right now, but it's one of those things. We're just going to have to wait, take our time, be patient. We will have windows pop up. I know, what was it, last year? We did have some issues. We were getting into early June and still having some problems with wet conditions in place, but take advantage of those dry windows whenever we see them. So, yeah.
Sound advice. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Man, I know I've only been back in the state for a couple of years, but it seems like this is the first time in a while that I haven't heard, like you said, the fruit tree growers, with damaged crops. It seems like a good winter in that sense that even though we had some cold temperatures, we didn't have some extreme warmth, I guess, to break that up to cause things to bloom too early. So my sense is this was a really good winter for them. Would that be a good assessment?
I talked to the fruit specialist at the Kentucky Extension Conference, and he seemed very pleased with where we're at currently as we head into the spring season. He planted a new orchard recently, north of Lexington, and he is very happy at the results, currently speaking. And he's just hoping, no big surprises moving forward, but you're exactly right. The past decade, we've had numerous spring seasons. We're going into them. They are much farther advanced in developmental stages. Again, fruit trees in bloom. We've had a number of years over the past decade where we've lost our peach crop. And for those orchards, they still have peaches, but it's not their own. They're going to have to ship in from surrounding states. So you're obviously not capitalizing on as much money as if it was your own product. You had to pay for some other product to come into the state. But yeah, this year in particular, 25 is shaping up to look a lot better for those orchards across Kentucky and your backyard home growers.
Looking at that rainfall forecast, you always wonder, well, how much of it is La Nina and how much of it is just would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
But this winter, precip wise, has kind of turned out like La Nina predicts. So
Yeah.
you hope as we get into more of a neutral phase that this will at least get us back to what used to be normal.
But I mean, bottom line, that's 6, 7 inches we saw over 24 hours across portions of the state. Even other areas, 3 to 4 inches was just as devastating for some areas. It definitely not what we want to see. So
Hey, Matt, one more question, and this is, get your crystal ball out just for a second. It seems to me like every year we'll talk throughout for our magazine. We'll talk throughout the growing season about where we are, and it seems like so often we'll start wet, and then by the time August gets here, we are smothering, and then we are faced with some drought issues. And I know that's a long way off, but any way to sort of gauge if we're going to have some of that same type of weather pattern once we get closer to harvest time?
so and Jerry, you can feel free to chime in too. Like to get your opinion. But looking that far out into the summer season and into the fall season, whatnot, just as a forecaster, it's very much up in the air. Sure, we can look at some climate oscillations, but I talked about ENSO. The main impacts of El Nino Southern Oscillation are going to be felt during the winter months. Sure, we'll see some impacts. ENSO can have an impact on hurricane activity. It can have an impact on severe weather during the spring season, but it's really hard to have an accurate forecast until we get, I would say, 2 weeks out, and then we start seeing those 6 to 10, 8 to 14 day outlooks. I preach to farmers and producers across the state. As a meteorologist, we can give you a decent idea out 7 days, you know what the maximum temperatures are going to be. When is that next cold front going to come through? How much precipitation is that cold front going to generate? But even going out that 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlook, I think those are awesome maps for farmers to take a look at to give them an idea. Wow, am I going to see a dry window next week? Are we ever going to get out of this wet pattern? I really need temperatures to warm up, especially as we're looking at planting season. We're going to want to have soil temperatures into the 50s before we start thinking about putting corn and beans in the ground. So look at those outlooks. Wow, next week's looking really warm. We will have soil temperatures go in the upward direction. By no means am I telling folks to start thinking about planting at this time, but once we get in the months of April, May, start taking a look at those outlooks, and you can get quite a bit of information from those to help you plan your management and production related strategies. So, but again, Jerry, I'm really interested to get your opinion on that aspect. So,
Well, boy, you just said everything I was thinking, and one thing we've seen, I think, over the last decade is really a huge improvement in those 2 to 3 week forecast, and but then, at the same time during the summer is probably our least um, uh, volatile. Well, what's the word I'm looking for? The predictability is a lot
you
more
have the
challenging.
convective thunderstorms. Yeah.
Right, right. And so it in some ways, we have gotten a lot better at predicting these, 2, 3, even 4 weeks out. Long range forecasts have really improved, but there's still that, like you said, the global teleconnections are a lot weaker during the summer. So, you know, uh, we can't rely on those for the longer term forecast like we can during the winter period, for sure. But yeah, I think the outlooks are more reliable now than they used to be. So there's meaning there that there maybe wasn't a decade ago.
Well, we certainly have great resources like the Mesonet, like UK to lean on when we're looking at forecasts, especially down the road. So we appreciate that. And just for Keenan there, because we live in the same county, my tulips are coming up. I'm really proud of that.
That's a good sight.
Anybody else? All right. Well, Matt, given what you showed, I'm guessing that March will end up above normal with above normal precip, but we'll wait and see.
I'm just happy to have 70-degree temperatures back in my life next week. So yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they'll stay there for at least around average. I don't know if I went 70 quite yet, but yeah. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you, Matt. This is great, and thanks everybody for joining. And we'll hopefully see everybody here, same time, same place, about a month from now.
Thanks,
It's
everyone.
April 3rd. Yeah, thank you, Matt.